Hey, welcome everyone to this video we are doing for the CodeShift Hackathon. One thing we've heard from a number of participants is that they want to use Kafka for event-driven applications, and a lot of people are using the Red Hat Developer Sandbox that is available, that's free to use and it's hosted, but the challenge is that you don't have access and permissions to create new operators. And the AMQ streams operator, which includes Kafka capabilities, is not included. So one thing we're going to do is this video is going to show you how to use, how to go through that process to kind of work around, so to speak, for lack of permissions. We're actually going to use Strimzy, and Strimzy is the upstream open source community for installing Kafka on Kubernetes, which is what the AMQ Streams is based off of. So AMQ Streams is the Red Hat productized version of Strimzy. So what I want to do here is have you launch your sandbox. So you go to developers.redhat.com and launch your sandbox. Mine's already provisioned, so it should just take a few seconds here to come up. What I want to do first is I am going to create both a deployment config and a service for the Kafka server. So if I go here to the top right and click on the plus button here, I will copy in my YAML. This information we're going to make available via PDF document, so you'll be able to copy and paste as well. So I'm going to hit create. And what you'll notice here is that we got two things created. Once again, a deployment config and also a service that's running for Zookeeper lists Kafka Bootstrap. So if I go to my topology view on the developer screen, you'll see that I now have a Kafka server that is created, and it looks like it is starting up. So once again, there's a pod now running with the Kafka server on it. I could take a look at logs and make sure that nothing is going wrong. Looks like I'm lagging a little bit here. There we go. We got some log information coming in. Looks like everything's progressing nicely. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go back to my topology view. So at this point, we've got a Kafka server up and running, and there's a couple of really nice open source free UI pieces to Kafka. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to install a Kafka UI component so we can see the brokers, topics, messages that are coming in. So the first thing I want to do is create a config map. So if I hit my plus sign up in my sandbox, I'm going to create a config map that's named Kafka UI config map, and it's going to be pointing to that Zookeeper list Kafka Bootstrap running on 9092, which I just created. That's the Kafka server. So looks like everything is looking good there. So I created a config map. Now what we want to do is what we want to do is we're going to install the UI via a Helm chart. So I'm going to go to Helm. I am going to create a repository first. I'm going to give it a name. In this case, we're going to call it Kafka UI. And I'm going to point it to this GitHub URL for the Kafka UI charts that we're going to use. And I'm going to hit create. And then now at this point, I've got a repository. I'm going to go through and actually create a Helm release. And if I search and filter by the Kafka UI that I just created, the repository there, I'm going to hit create. I'm going to select the latest version of the chart. What I'm going to do is delete this default YAML that was there, and instead I'm going to use and point to my config map that we just created. Once again, it's Kafka UI config map, and I'm going to hit create. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my topology view, and once again we are going to see that I've got a Kafka server up and running, and now we've got the deployment config for the Kafka UI. So one of the things I need to do now is I need to expose that endpoint for a URL so I can so I can see it. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to create a route. In order to do that, I have to switch views from developer to administrator. And I'm going to go under networking routes. And I'm going to create a new route. I'm going to call it Kafka UI. I think I am. And I'm going to make sure that we are, oops, I'm going to select the service name, which we created earlier, and I want to make sure the port is port 80. And I'm going to hit create. So now when I go back to my developer view, we should see that I have a route exposed. So I can open the URL, and now I can see my UI for my Apache Kafka server. So if you notice, I don't have anything already created. So if I wanted to create a new topic, I can go in and use the UI to create a new topic and just say Jeff's topic. We'll give it one partition and we'll create the topic. So if I were to go back to my topics and I see here that I've got one partition, and I can go in the UI, I can do things like producing a message. So if I wanted to say test message here, I can go down and do produce message, and we would see that I now have one message in my Jeff's topic. So this is just kind of the bare bones to get you up and running. This is a nice workaround to, once again, use Kafka for any event-driven applications that you might have. As always, let us know on the Slack channel if you have any questions or concerns, or we can help in any way. But hopefully this gets you to a point where you can use Kafka. All right, thanks.